everybody, and welcome to the 12th episode of Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed the 11th episode with Megan Jenkins Montgomery. Today I'm going to talk to another former classmate of mine, Trent Staten. Trent's had a really interesting life since leaving Wellston, from working at Disney to doing stunts to working on television shows to working with celebrities. Really cool story of Trent's life. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So we'll just jump right into it. Here's my interview with Trent Staten.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Good, dude. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Got you good. How about on this end? You hear me okay?
Loud and clear, man. What you been up to?
Man, right now just trying to stay alive. I've been out of work. Been out of work for about 2 weeks. I've worked one day in the last 2 weeks.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, man, we're really getting, over here at the hospital, we rely on tourists and elective surgeries and things like that. And right now with the COVID deal, we're pretty limited. So not a whole lot going on, but they've been calling me off. So I've just kind of been enjoying, trying to take walks and take hikes and go to the beach a little bit while we can. They're still allowing us to go to the beach. We can. It's kind of funny, essential activities here. They're like, oh, you can still do the essentials like stand up paddleboard, surf, swim or whatever, but you just can't hang out at the beach. So it's been a little different. It's kind
of how it is here as well. All like elected surgeries are non-life threatening or anything like that, and it's all been pushed to TBD. The beaches, actually, they're closed here now. That before the spring breakers came and kind of ruined it for everybody. And it's weird because like national news, it was like, oh, Florida screwed it up for everybody, but it's actually people coming from other states coming to Florida, and that's what's ruined it for everyone. But we'll take the rap.
Right. I think those kids who were down there, they were kind of being cocky about it, and I saw some stuff on the news. Oh, it's not gonna get me, or bring it on. I'm not afraid of it. Whatever. Well, now they're kind of seeing maybe this is a bigger deal than we thought.
Yeah, exactly. So the governor had his hands full trying to shut all that down, but it's also too. You gotta look at. I mean, we're a tourist state, and we don't have state income tax or anything like that. That's all dedicated to hotel beds and taxes on. All that kind of stuff. So it's when it first started happening, that's a huge blow to our local economy statewide. It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
But now it's a much bigger thing than what they were expecting, I believe. It's probably like that where you are as well. You're probably in a similar boat.
Yeah, we're just stuck on the middle of the Pacific here, so we're on this little rock. But we've I think they had the first death here on the island yesterday. We're up to we're up into the 40s or 50s as far as cases go here. Total on the islands, Oahu, the Big Island, Kauai, and Maui. I think Molokai has maybe one or two, but I think total we're in the mid 400s, something like that, low to mid 400s.
Yeah,
which is just nuts, man.
We've got quite a bit here, but none in my actual county. I'm a little bit north of Orlando. I'm about an hour north, but I don't think there's any really in our county. I'm not 100% sure. It's strange, man, because the news every day. It changes every day, like so rapid.
Right.
But Orange County, where part of Disney is, in downtown Orlando, like Orlando proper, that it's got their hands full there, and they've been full shutdown, lockdown for 3 weeks, I think now, where my county just got the lockdown when the statewide happened on, I think, last Friday.
Wow.
So,
I know back home.
Just the grocery store.
Go ahead.
Just going to the grocery store. That's the only thing we can do. Grocery store and places like Lowe's or Home Depot.
Yeah, it's been crazy here with the lines at Costco, and people are just, people overreact at any time like this, especially here on the island when they know it takes a while to get supplies over here. But, man, people just overreact. Like, you want to be safe, you want to be cautious, but don't hoard, man. Everybody needs a little piece of it, Everybody needs...
Exactly. So that kind of bit us in the beginning because we just bought what we needed. You know, I mean, we're just a family of four, so we don't need a whole lot. So I didn't like stock up on a lot of stuff. I just thought I'll let somebody else get it who needs it worse than I do. We did stock up on things like milk because the twins they need milk to survive, but like toilet paper and things like that, we just got a little more than what we would have on a regular day. But now it's like hard to come by. So maybe we should have more. But we're nowhere near in trouble with that. We still have plenty, but just start looking for it here soon. But still, and then you got people on the other spectrum that got 100 rolls with nothing to do with them.
Exactly.
Or something.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Yeah, a little crazy. We were talking about how it hasn't spread to where you're at. I know Dad said that it hasn't spread to. It was funny. He said Vinton County and Jackson County still have no, confirmed cases. And I was talking to him I was talking to Dad the other day, and he's like, "Man, even a virus doesn't want to come to this town." I was like, yeah, man, it's nuts though. Just the way this thing is spread, it just blows my mind.
Yeah. And some of the I guess I don't know what you would say, but like some of the research is showing that this could have been around back in like November, December, and the numbers are probably far more than what people are even like. It happened to me before people even knew what it was.
Right. And
so
and before the media kind of, obviously the media's it's definitely a big deal and it's definitely legit, but man, the media just pounces on that. It's like, let's talk about the 98% survival rate, or let's talk about, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Let's not talk about, more people died. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of these people there are a lot of people who are in their 30s and 40s that are getting it, unfortunately passing away, but it's,
a lot of them too had underlying issues that they may not have been aware of, or cancer survivors with the low immune system and things like that too.
Right. That's true, man.
That's the whole thing. It's just like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and Dr. Drew, I listen to some of his work, and he said people were talking about LA County and all that, and he said they're doing extremely well keeping things contained and keeping. I mean, it could have gotten a lot worse, a lot quicker if people wouldn't have just took the measures that we did take. But holy smokes, and still, who knows? Like when this thing, and then also, what's normal going to be when this thing goes below over? Like I'm kind of anxious to see what the new normal is. Right now, unfortunately, I'm still working right now, but I'm working from home.
Mm-hmm.
When it's time to go back, or is that something that more people will want to do in school? Is there a need to go to a brick and mortar school anymore? I mean, it looks like everybody kind of adapted in a couple of weeks. I mean, how's that going to look in the future? How's that going to look when our kids are 2 this week? Will they go to college? Will they go to a physical location for college, or will they take it online or do on-the-job training, or how's that going to look in the future? How's that going to look?
Things are going to be different for sure, man. This is going to impact us for years, I mean, I don't think I don't think things are going to be back to quote normal for, a while. I would say even into next year. I mean, it's just like so much stuff has to rebound and recover. The economy was doing so well, and then, it's taken a beating, but like you said, with jobs
our class as a whole has had quite an onset of college delta. We graduated 2000,
mm-hmm.
and then as soon as we get out in the workforce and start going to college and stuff, and then September 11th, 2001,
mm-hmm.
that happened, and a lot of our friends got deployed into the military and things like that, and then we had the economy tanked and couldn't really find any jobs or anything for a while. And then the next thing, we do get out of college, and the housing market plummets, and we get into the biggest recession we've had in a long time. And then all the other things that happen between now and then now we got this that we're going to be dealing with for who knows how long. 401ks and just our economy and things like that in general. Just some of the things that we've seen just in what little bit of time we've been around. You know what I mean?
Right, man. We had the swine flu, the bird flu, H1N1. It's like, man,
Zika virus.
Zika, yeah.
Stuff,
what the heck?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But it's a strange time, but it's also, I wouldn't give up the point in history where we are either. We were able to enjoy life growing up without the internet, and you kind of how we grew up too in a small town, I wouldn't change that for anything.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You know, I look at kids here that have been here their whole life, and I'm like, man, that is pretty cool though. You got to grow up here in the ocean, and you know, you got to go to the ocean every day. You got to do this, you got to do that, but then you kind of look at it, and they're really isolated. I'm like, well, you didn't get to go
Yeah.
just take off for family vacations and drive 8, 10, 12 hours. You can't. You do that here, and you've driven around the entire island.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they never got to experience the cold 10-degree winters and the snow and playing out in the snow drifts and or like what I mean, going out and just riding bikes through the woods and all that kind of fun stuff, four-wheelers and motorcycles out in the woods. I mean, they do that stuff here a little bit, but not to the extent we were lucky enough to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't trade it for anything, man.
No doubt.
We had it pretty good.
We did, and it was a fun town when we were kids. It really was. That was a.
Yeah, I hear it's totally different now. I don't really get to come back nearly as often as I like, but I try to see my folks at least once or twice a year. We used to try to go to a high state game at least once a year. But now it's tougher. It's tougher to travel with the kiddos for sure.
Oh, I imagine.
But and it's easier for to have my family come here too, and they can do more. There's a lot of things to do. It's not that I don't want to go home. It's just easier for them to all come here, and there's more things to do. But I mean, I think I went home last year 3 times.
Okay.
We went home for the twins' first birthday, and then had a couple other trips, and then my dad he had a little health concern, so we rushed home. He had some arteries in his legs that were going bad. He had to do some kind of surgery where they take an artery from one leg and bypass it over to the other leg. He was losing feeling in his toes and stuff like that. So I'm sure you know what that's like. With some of your work, Jake Evers is actually his physical therapist for I don't know.
Nice.
2 weeks.
That's cool. I just kind of reconnected a little bit with Jake. We've sent messages on Instagram back and forth here recently. We kind of drifted apart there for a long time, and it's hopefully we can repair that and kind of get to where we're buddies again. And life just kind of took us in different directions. And I love the kid to death. He was one of my best friends growing up, and we had a lot of good times together. So hopefully this put an olive branch out there, and you kind of keep going back and forth. He showed me some pictures of his daughters, who I can't believe are that old now, and just crazy.
Crazy, isn't it?
I mean, I was thinking yesterday, man. The last time I saw you was 7 years ago. We were actually hanging out with Hulk Hogan, man. That was at Hogan's Beach there in Tampa, Clearwater. I can't believe that's been 2013. We were there.
I know, huh?
Remember?
You came down for the bowl game, didn't you?
I did, yeah. We were there for New Year's and the opening of the beach, and man, Nate McCarter was with me, and that's another kid we've kind of grown apart a little bit, and I haven't really talked to Nate much in the last couple of years, unfortunately, but yeah, man,
that's man. And I'm sure it's tough. You got 6-hour time difference, and then you're also a few thousand miles away as well.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, with texting and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, all that stuff, you can keep in touch, but a lot of times, you kind of out of sight, out of mind with people, unfortunately, and you don't get to see them as much. And even when I'm home, I don't do a whole lot. I work there still for Adina. I work when I can, and then I'm back off to the races again, or I'm traveling somewhere and that kind of thing. But yeah, man, you kind of lose track. That's why it was cool to text back and forth with you the last couple of weeks. I'm like, man, I haven't talked to Trent forever. And when I told mom, yeah, I'm gonna interview Trent. She's like, you know what? I always really liked that boy. Like she was like, I don't really know why, because you and I didn't hang out together necessarily. When we were young, we didn't play ball together.
Not every day or anything like that. Yeah.
Right, but she's like, I really like that Trent.
I always thought that one of your folks, man. They were always super, super awesome, man. They great people, and they just like how you turned out, man. It's a product of your nature. And my folks, my mom always liked you as well.
Well, I appreciate that. They're great folks as well, man. And again, I haven't saw them for years. Sometimes when I come home, I'll just take a ride around town, and you kind of pass by people, or you see people who you think you know, and you realize, man, I haven't saw that person in 15 years. I think that's them, but I can't be, I can't be sure. But
that's the story of my life. Because like I said, I don't get around when I do get there. It's constant. Like, I'm going to a softball game to watch my niece, or I'm going to a basketball game to watch my nephew. Or other than that, it's like family time and trying to get the most out of it because I'm in and I'm out. I'm off to a job afterwards, or coming through town for some other reason and try to make as much as I can while I'm there and then get out. But it's when you are there, it's try to see as much of your family as you can, try to get together, and then if anything else happens, it's awesome. But sometimes it's just tough to get anything else going while you're there.
For sure.
And everybody's spread out too. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of friends, stuff like that. They may still be in Ohio, but maybe Columbus or Dayton or somewhere else too.
True.
It's very difficult.
Do you remember the year we went to, I think it was like 1997, 1998 for New Year's. We went to some cabin. I think it was you, me, Rachel Moore, Ryan Fott, and maybe one or two others.
That was out in my sister's place.
Okay, I never could remember whose cabin or where that cabin was. I just remember going out there for New Year's, and I remember, was it your brother who came out and wouldn't let any of us drive home? I'm like, dude, I don't drink. I'm not drinking. He's like, nope, I'm not letting anybody drive home.
The girls somehow got liquor or something, and they got caught with it, and they didn't want us driving home, which is obviously safe. But you and I don't drink. I still don't drink.
Yeah, me either.
It's not my thing. But, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of tough when you're 17, 18 years old, and you're like, yeah, it wasn't me. Like, of course, we look guilty, but, you know, they just took us home. Yeah, I think it was either my brother or one of my brother-in-laws. I don't remember exactly how it went down. I know the girls were called for it. It wasn't us.
Exactly. I remember. Yeah, good on your brother, though. Good for him for doing that, because a lot of people wouldn't, take that initiative, but good for him for looking out for us, even though we were okay,
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember where it came from or how they got it or what, but I remember that. I do remember that. You know what? That never came up in the family ever since. We never talked about it ever again, not one time.
Man, really? That's funny. I think that was probably 97 to 98, right? Don't you think?
You know what? I think that was 99, wasn't it? 99.
Was it? I know it was one of those.
Because we were driving.
Yeah.
We were driving. So how did it 99, 2000? Maybe it's 2000?
I don't think it's 2000. I'm thinking I had just got my license. I got my license in 98, so I think it was 98 or 99.
Crazy.
Funny. Yeah. Funny, man.
Yep. It was way out off 124. My sister's place out there.
I always think when I think about you, I always think about three things. Obviously, the Hogan Beach, meeting up there, going out to the cabin, and then obviously my senior year of basketball when you were the team DJ, and I always had to put in my request. I'm like, Trent, you got to play Real Big Fish for me. Like, you got to play the setup. I need to hear that. And man, you played that every game, and that like coming out to that song, I'm like, okay, nerves are calm. I like it. I'm digging it. I appreciate it. But I always think of those three things with you.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I did that for a while. That was one of my. I think that's kind of how I got bit by the production bug. It's like I like doing that kind of stuff, just setting up and making all that happen, and I kind of turned a career out of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like also, you having Charlie Mannering on the horn, it snapped like a memory that was just embedded in my mind so far. I didn't even think about it until I heard him talking about that. I cut an album for him when we were still in high school on my computer at home. We made like bootleg copies of it. He sold at school, and he was on like News Channel 3, like pushing his album.
Really?
It was like cover songs. It was crazy.
How cool is that?
But that was kind of like the energy that sparked what I do now. I'm not really in the music industry now, but I work in the TV industry, TV and marketing and stuff like that. So it's a little crazy. I guess whenever you get into something, you find it at a young age, and then you just kind of stick with it. I probably 17. I remember going to like Hummingbird Music, and we bought like a special microphone. But it was the quality was still horrible. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have a board to mix it on or anything. But
Right.
He probably still has it. I don't know. But yeah, that was the craziest thing. And Matchbox 20, it was all the things that he was talking about on your show. But all the things that we recorded. It was crazy, man.
That's funny. I'll have to text him and ask him about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, man, let's hop right into your career. You know, obviously we went to Rio together for a couple years there, and after that, dude, I remember talk us through what happened, where you went. I know that the Disney thing came along. Kind of give us a little insight into where you started.
Well, it was a crazy thing. I was cruising the internet back in my sophomore year of college. And this thing came up, like, oh, you want to work for Disney? We're taking applications. I'm like, sure, I'll work for Disney. And it was like an internship that turns out it's like a lot of their frontline force comes from what they call the college program. And I did that. I signed up for it. And while I was at Ryan, I worked at Splashdown, the water park. I kind of managed the lifeguards and stuff like that there. So I had a little bit of theme park, in quotation marks, theme park experience, but I had experience at a water park, and my recruiter, he must have picked up on that, and I got picked up right away, and they assigned me to Blizzard Beach, which is a water park at Disney, and I was what they call a flight operator, and man, that was like MTV Spring Break every day. It was crazy, man. I met a lot of great people, and a lot of fun. My hours were like 10 in the morning to 7 at night, and after that we could go do anything. I mean, we could go to do anything we wanted to do. We could go to the beach, or we could go to Tampa, we could go to Orlando. It's just so, coming from Wellston, which is, you got to drive, forever to get to anything, to coming down and just getting picked up and just kind of put in the middle of the epicenter of tourism and everything else. It was like, holy smokes. So it was kind of like life-changing a little bit, because I liked working for the company, and I liked the area. It was totally different than anything I've ever been really exposed to before. Day in and day out. So I finished my program. I finished everything on good measure. Went back to school. Finished my last year of school. So a lot of people I was there with stayed. They didn't understand it's a heck of school, but I wanted to finish and get my degree. And then I also studied in Europe for a little while too. And that summer, I was able to do the abroad program and like an art history thing, and studied in Italy, which was pretty cool. Yeah. And then turned around and graduated in. We graduated in May, and I was back to Disney that June as what they call a professional internship. And I worked as a photographer, and then the rest is pretty much history after that. I've been there full time, I think now 15 years, and I've probably had 20, 25 different job titles throughout the way, just moving around and trying to do things, whatever I can get into. And then the whole time I've been working here, I've also had my own company on the side where just kind of growing it through the years as well.
All right, man. So what got you into the stunt work deal? How did that come about? Was that something that you kind of looked at early on? I know you rode dirt bikes and things like that as a kid, but as far as getting into the stunts, man, was that something you always wanted to do?
But not necessarily. I didn't even think that could be an option for me growing up. I enjoyed that kind of stuff, but I never thought I could make money doing that kind of stuff. But when I got down here as an intern, there was a show, it's no longer there, but it's called the Extreme Stunt, or the Light Motor Action Extreme Stunt Show. It was at Disney Hollywood Studios, and it was a full-out, they were jumping cars on the stage. It was like 70 miles an hour, and they were doing ballet with cars and stuff. I was like, oh man, I could do that. Let me sign up for that. So I went home that day, went back to my apartment, and I was like, I want to become a stunt driver. And there was a stunt driving school in town, you could learn how to be, and it was the group that helped put the show together. So I reached out to the company, and they're like, yeah, we have a class coming up in January. We need to like provide like, I don't know, $1,500-$1,600, but at the time it could have been $15,000. I mean, I was an intern making probably $8 an hour, but I worked overtime. I made it work, and I signed up for class, and then I started working for that team, and then next thing you know, I was producing shows and stuff after that. So it was pretty cool. It was quite a run. I've been on fire. I've done high falls. I mean, you name it, I've gotten my butt kicked. I mean, everything. It's harder to get your butt kicked than to kick somebody's butt. That's the hard part. Is selling it. You know what I mean? Making it so that the camera looks like, you know, you're really getting punched in the face and stuff like that. But yeah, I did that. I mean, I think I was doing that kind of stuff for about 10 years, and now I primarily focus on the actual production, not on camera, but above the line behind the camera.
What was your first stunt? Do you remember your first one?
First, I was driving. So started out small, like we would do sliding, like we'd slide the car, and then we jumped up into like reverse 180s and 360s, and you know, that kind of stuff. And then after the car stuff, my first like other type of stunts, I did a high fall. I've been on, and then after that, I think we did the fire stuff. We just kind of, you know what I mean? It was just being around and when the call comes in, oh, we need somebody to do this. You kind of fit their description. We'll train you up, and then you'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. It's all about like the look. Like you got to match the talent a lot of times. So
sure,
it's just kind of being lucky. Like I've been thrown downstairs. Like we did this one thing it was like a James Bond like show thing where we were plants on a yacht in Miami, and these people were like, just like, I don't know, they're rich people. I don't know what they were there for, some kind of convention or something. But they rented chartered this huge yacht, and we were out off of like Key Biscayne, and they flew in. This guy looked like James Bond on a helicopter. He was like hanging off of the skid of a helicopter, and I was like a cocktail server like guy. And like I had hors d'oeuvres and the liquor and stuff on my tray, and I was like handing things out to people. But I was in on the show, so when he came in and took over the boat, like he picked me up and like threw me downstairs, and like the people were like, "Oh my God, he's not part of the show," but I really was. It was like it was one of those kind of things. It was crazy.
How cool is that?
But that was one of my first real gigs, and then after that, I've done a lot. 90% of my work's either been car related or camera car related.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done commercials. I mean, countless commercials and things like that but not like used by your commercials, like national, you know what I mean, spots, the closed course professional driver type stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you meet your wife? She's a stunt person also, or she was, right? Is that how you guys met?
Yeah. No, we actually met at Disney, but she just being around, and she's actually a lot better at the physical stunts than I am. She was a gymnast, and she was in cheerleading and stuff for years and years, and she did stunt cheerleading, so she knew like air awareness and like how to do flips and things like that. So she actually worked quite a bit, and she could double kids, like she could double a 12-year-old or something. So she was just around, and like a call would come in, and they're like, "Oh, it actually kind of looks like Lori. Can you think she'd be interested?" And, yeah, absolutely. Let's get her trained up, and she would do the thing. She would do the job. We did a show called Forensic Files several times where I killed her. One time I shot her with an AK-47. One time we threw her in the back of a pickup truck and like floored it, and she broke her neck. We did all kinds of crazy stuff for that show, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, man, that's what I was actually going to bring up Forensic Files, because I remember you telling me a story when we were in Clearwater. You were like, if I'm remembering the story correctly, that you said that she had performed a stunt for Forensic Files right there in the bay. Like she did some kind of scene where she was in the bay right there.
Yeah, it was, I can't remember a waterlogged or something like that was the name of the actual episode, but it was a crime that happened right there in Tampa where this guy took a charter boat out at sunset, and he had these women with him, and he I don't know if he tried to rape them or what was going on, but he tied concrete bricks around her ankles and threw them overboard. And Lori, the person she was portraying, actually I think got loose and swam away before this guy knew it, and that's how I think he got caught that way or something. But so they actually tied her up and threw her over the boat in the bay, and then she had to swim like I don't know how far she had swum, but it was like 100 meters or something like that to shore. And they actually threw her over the boat and tied her, and she had to go underwater with the camera and all that kind of stuff. And I still have the cinder block. It was made of like styrofoam, but we still have the prop from that shoot. But she's been all over the country for that, doing things like that. She's been thrown over a banister when it was in the real crime. She was thrown over a banister and hit concrete, but there was an airbag underneath it. So off camera, she fell safely, but on the real take, it looks like she split her leg on the concrete. But yeah, it's been a heck of a run, man. This kind of things. As a young person to do that kind of stuff, you can't do this kind of things your whole life. A lot of stunt performers become stunt coordinators, but I went a different direction. I went more to production.
Right. That's one of the big names. Obviously, was Hal Needham. Wrote Smokey and the Bandit and was a stunt coordinator on a lot of shows. And he actually directed my favorite movie of all time, which was the BMX movie Rad. So I always, anytime I think of a stunt person, I think of Hal Needham's always the first one to come to my mind. But also just from meeting him and being a fan of the horror movie series, Kane Hodder, the guy who played Jason Voorhees and countless Friday the 13th. Have you had a chance to read his book?
I have not, no.
Dude, grab that, man. It's really cool and really tells the story. Are you familiar with Kane? Do you know much about him?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so his big, the big deal why he wears the gloves now and how he pretty much always has his neck covered, and because he suffered a really horrific, a burn injury back in the day when he was trying to do a photo shoot, and it really goes into detail and explains it, and it really makes you look at, you see these movies done, you see these TV shows done, and people kind of forget about the stunt people. It's like, man, these are the guys who are getting hurt. It's not the guys that you see. It's not, it's not Burt Reynolds. Well, just like, like the Fall Guy, man, right? Just like the theme to the Fall Guy, like legit. But yeah, it's a really good read, man. I recommend it if you get a chance, pick that up. And really cool.
And our whole thing was to do this kind of things in one take. Rarely did it ever happen, one and done, because you always got to do a safety. But you're really risking your life, man, on a lot of stuff. You're like, you're putting it out there, and then you're like, all right, let's do another one. You're like, crap.
Right.
Nerves are, through the roof. Especially if you do a full body burn, that's some very scary stuff. Especially if you don't get put out right away. Something happens. It could go bad real quick. But we always had like extra measures. Like there was always a backup. Like there was always 2 fire extinguishers. There was always a wet blanket you could throw on them. There was a gel bag or something like that. There's always a double redundancy. Anything we did, especially like airbags and stuff like that. We had safety on the corners of the airbags, and you tie the cables to so somebody doesn't walk through across the cable and trip and unplug the airbag fan or something like that. So there's a reason. There's some coordinators, and there's a reason the ones that work all the time, because they're really good at what they do. It's a calculated risk, and you're risking it. But it's funny you mentioned Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham. Hal Needham was huge in my life. I've never had a chance to really meet him, but a lot of people that when I first got started were in his circle, and I was trained by the people that he worked with and things like that. And then with Burt, right before he passed, I actually had a meeting set up with him. We were going to do a children's TV show about a wild western, about just like a learning adventure, and he was going to narrate it. And I went down to Jupiter and met with him, and it was a sad day when he passed. America lost an icon, but we actually had like a little deal working out with his company.
Wow.
To do this thing. Yeah, it was crazy, man.
No kidding. Pretty nice fella.
Man, he was super, super nice. He was a living legend. He didn't have a hair out of place. he looked like I mean, it was like 8 o'clock at night when we met with him at his school, and he was like dressed to the nines. He didn't have he looked nice, he looked healthy, and he was on his way. Right after that, he was going to go work on Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He actually had a role in that.
That's right, yeah.
But and he passed right during the shoot. Yeah, it was rough. But I got a chance to spend time with him and see what it was like, and from what I could tell, he was a class act kind of guy.
No kidding, man. I know he got to where he was doing the Comic Con circuits and things like that there the last few years. I never got a chance to meet him at any one of them. He was never at one that I was at, but like you said, man, just kind of an icon of the late 70s and early 80s type of, he kind of started that, man. You can't, Smokey and the Bandit, it's a national treasure, basically,
It's in my DVD player right now, actually. The original Smokey and the Bandit.
That's fantastic. So
they don't make stuff like that anymore.
They don't, dude. That's I grew up. Dukes of Hazzard was my show, man. I was a huge Dukes of Hazzard fan, huge Fall Guy fan. And those shows they were fun. They were the car with the Dukes. I mean, the General Lee became the star of the show. It's like, how can a car become the star of the show? But those chase scenes, taking it back to like Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry. Those, I don't know if you've ever saw that movie or not, but. Great movie, kind of one of the early, one of the best, car scenes, chase scenes. It's actually in the opening of the Fall Guy. Whenever the car runs into the train and explodes, that's actually from that. It's actually from that movie. That's a good one. If you get a chance, check that one out. Peter Fonda, I think, is in it. Really, really good show. But man, they don't make anything like that anymore. That's
not at all.
When we grew up, being 80s kids, man, we got to see some. Looking back, is it cheesy? Yeah, a lot of it's cheesy, but man, it was fun. It was so much fun. We didn't worry. You didn't have the CGI. You didn't have all the fake stuff. You didn't have all the filthy talk and just stuff that you could just sit back with your folks or with your cousins or whatever, and watch it and just have fun.
Exactly. Yeah, it's totally different than it was back then. Now.
No kidding. Well, let's kind of segue in. You said you've done a lot of different commercials, things like that. What working with a lot of different, athletes, celebrities, things like that. Give me a couple stories with that might stick out in your head as far as people that you worked with, either good encounters, bad encounters, indifferent encounters, whatever you want to share.
They're all pretty much good. I mean, nothing really sticks out as bad. Usually, if you show up on time, you do your job, it's usually pretty good. But I mean, we've a couple of them. I mean, BMW is my biggest client for years and years and years. And whenever we get together with that group, that is like getting the old band back together. We try to do several shoots a year with them, and it's always with the same people. And it's like family, man. It's crazy. Like you work really, really hard. It takes a lot to pull these things off. But you also get to go out and have dinner with everybody at the end of the day and just relax and just kind of, what I mean? So it's like a family. The show business is a family business. Mm-hmm. But I've had an opportunity. I ended up on the Super Bowl commercial.
Nice.
It was a BMW spot where they were talking about the factory and they were talking about like you would never realize that a luxury manufacturer has a factory in South Carolina, and it was like this whole thing about being built in South Carolina. But also, I did one where we shot like six or eight cars all over Orlando. We had a tractor trailer moving them and doing all this stuff because they're prototypes usually. Mm-hmm. We had like going location to location, and we shot for like 3 days doing all that stuff. And then next thing you know, that thing that got cut up and was onto a Super Bowl spot. What else was there? I did a thing with Prince Harry for Jaguar and Land Rover. That was a pretty cool one. And he was super, super nice. He came up and, he rolled up on a golf cart. Pretty much, I think it was just him and one other person. He didn't have an entourage. He didn't have, like, Secret Service with him. It was just the craziest thing. It was for the project was it was like a Wounded Warriors type thing where it's his Invictus Games, where it's kind of like Olympics, but for wounded military veterans all over the world. And they happen to have a show going on in Florida, and we were part of it. That was a weird one because when it was like, it's always the same kind of call you get, like, hey, you guys do a lot of car stuff. We have a luxury car manufacturer coming. We'd like to see what your rates are and turn it in. And then it's like, can we do a background check on you? I'm like, that's new. Never had anybody do that before, but sure. And it was like, can you fill out this paperwork? And it was like all the stuff, but it ended up because Prince Harry was involved, and we just had to make sure that it was on the up and up and all that kind of stuff. But that was crazy. But it's been all over. It's what's kind of neat about it is I've had the opportunity to go all over the country to some of the most beautiful, pristine locations and see stuff that a lot of people would never get a chance to see, because that's where the car commercials are shot. Like, all these weird, like, beautiful locations that makes the car look nice. Sure.
That's pretty cool. That would be the thing about the job, man, is being able to go and see things and travel and stuff like that. I'm sure now you probably try to stick around home a little bit more with two young kids.
I do, but unfortunately, I actually had to dip out when the kids were like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks old. I had to produce a TV show, and I had to skip town for a little bit. And I was gone, I don't know. I was gone for a little bit, and Lori was like, unfortunately, her folks are nearby, and they were able to help her out, but she wasn't quite healed up yet, and it was like I had to kind of make this happen, you know what I mean? Because, there's often things like that come along. You want to take advantage of that opportunity every time you can. So I still get to travel, maybe not quite as much as I used to, but I still try to keep everything going as much as I can.
Sure.
And even with Disney, I have some trips and stuff with them as well, but I get to get out for a little bit. Also, sometimes I get to bring the family with me too.
Nice.
I was able to take them to San Diego last summer. We went to San Francisco and Vancouver, Canada, with the family, and Seattle. So that was fun. But not everything's like that, and it doesn't always work out like that. But take advantage of it when we can.
Sure, man. Now, you told me that we were talking the other day, and you said that you got to work on season 4, I believe, of The Walking Dead. What? Give me a little insight of what you did there.
That was pretty good, man. That was like in the height of their glory. Season 4 was before it really jumped the shark. Mm-hmm. It was right after, I think our part took in right after Glenn escaped from the prison or whatever, and he woke up in the back of a military style truck. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that at the time was this thing called a Russian arm, and it's like a SUV with a giant arm on the roof of it. There weren't very many of them around at the time, and we had that, and we had one. We had that, and we rented that thing out, and we'd go all over the country. And I didn't go a lot because I still had a full-time job here, but I managed that crew, and I managed everything. I took care of all the books and made sure that the crew had the hotel and make sure they knew where they were going and check in with production and all that kind of stuff from behind the scenes. But this one I actually went on because some of them I could operate. I operate camera and stuff like that. So this one I went on because that was one of my favorite shows at the time. And oh man, this one happened, and that was a pretty good set. I mean, they were like, holy cow! Like everybody, all the cast, all the crew had never seen anything like the equipment. So they were like, oh my god! And they actually did a whole behind the scenes little episode thing about the car coming up there and what we were doing. And I think it's online still. But it was quite extreme. I mean, lunch was like steak and lobster. Not all shoots are like that.
Right.
Some of the bigger shoots are like that. And then they fed us dinner and stuff like that. But it was cool. We actually ate lunch in one of the churches that you see on all the time. And it's crazy too because where we were shooting is you see the church was in an episode, and then you cross over these railroad tracks, and they were in every episode, from season 4 on. Mm-hmm. And then there was houses and stuff that we would drive by doing our shoot that showed up in other places in the show and in different seasons and stuff. But that was a fun one. That was a pretty big shoot. And we did a thing with John Mayer. It was like a John Mayer executive produced pilot for something last year, and I don't think it got picked up, but that was another pretty big shoot.
Super cool, man. You were talking about going back to The Walking Dead, like you said, man. It kind of jumped the shark, but what a fun show that was. I still watch it just because I feel like, man, I've watched it this long. I got to see how it ends up. But the first 3 to 4 seasons were just phenomenal. The show was off the charts. The ratings were off the charts. But like you said, they they kept adding way too many characters and taking different turns and doing this and doing that and killing characters, and then it just, like you said, it kind of lost me for a long time. I think there was one of the showrunners on there really made some bad choices, in my opinion, and took some characters out that shouldn't have been.
They have to make it theirs, at that point, because showrunners change and things like that. So they have to put their thumbprint of approval and things like that. But
right.
When I was there, that was the heyday. Like that was, it was still the same kind of crew and everything that was there from the beginning. And like that was like, it was. They just signed on for like season 5 when we were in town. It was crazy. That was a big. They also shoot in film, and a lot of times we always shoot with either like a Red camera or Arri Alexa or Alexa Mini, or high-end cameras, but the digital. They shot that show when we were there. They shot on film.
Oh wow!
They were shooting on 35 millimeter film, and then they would take that and then digitize that and then put all the other stuff into it. But yeah, you don't see much film anymore, hardly any. And they were still shooting it then. That was a little while ago. Season 4 was a while ago. But it's tough though, because that show was such good writing and such a great concept. But you can only keep people's attention with a crew of people running through Georgia in the woods for so long. So they had to make changes. It's just, how long can this run? And they try to do spin-off shows and stuff like that, which is difficult, man. Once you get that lightning in the bottle, it's hard to keep it in the bottle, and it's even harder to duplicate it.
Right. And once it's out, you can't get it back in, man. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I often wonder what it would have been like had they just kept Frank Darabont as the showrunner and kind of let him run with it, because Darabont, in my opinion, is a genius. But man, when they kind of had that little tussle with him early on and kind of ousted him after the first season, I think Glenn Mazzara was the second season runner, and I thought he did a fantastic job. But after that, I thought it went downhill. There's a lady named Angela Kang who does it now, and I don't know if you still watch the show, but this past season has been the best probably since season 4 or 5. Picked back up a little bit, yeah, but it's still not the same. It's still, it needs to wrap up within the next year or two. It's like, all right, we've kind of, you've run your course, you've been on a decade. To get a decade out of any show is pretty daggone good, but
especially this day and age, holy cow, there's so many choices, and the content's changing day by day. I used to go to this thing called NAFTE. It's like National Association of Television Executives.
Yeah.
And I think television executive producer or something like that. But we used to go to that in Miami every year. And when we were there, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, they were like, TV content, how it's how it's consumed is going to be totally different in 5 years. I'm like, that was like that long ago. It's like, yeah, there's cable and Netflix, but like the things that they were thinking of and how you stream things, and now there's like Quibi with quick bites and just like the way TV shows are formatted and sponsored and things like that. It's totally different than it used to be. I've put together probably 100 pitches, and I've done my own pilots, and we've done all this stuff through the years, and it's tough, man. It's like chasing the tail of the dragon. Like they want one thing one year, and the next year it's something totally different that you're not prepared for.
Wow, I bet that's tough, man, for sure. And like you said, there's so many options now. I'm kind of glad that we didn't have those options when we were kids, because man, it would have been hard to, we still would have got outside, but man, when you can watch anything you want inside. You got everything right there at your fingertips, man. It's kids today, like my little cousin, she doesn't come outside a whole lot. It's like, Aubrey, you got to get outside, kid. But, you got Netflix in front of them or their phones in front of them, and it's just a totally...
Disney Plus.
Yeah, right.
Disney Plus is a game changer. You got the entire Disney content, like all their content, Star Wars, everything is right there. You can watch anything you want anytime.
I remember whenever I was a kid, I was 6 or 7. I still had a little 11 or 13-inch black and white television that had, I think it went up to channel 13, had the UHF station, and that hasn't been that long ago. So to see what it's come over in the last 30 years is just mind-boggling.
But when we were growing up, did you ever think you'd have a thing in your pocket so you could video conference somebody in Japan or somebody around the world? Like, it's for free. Like, it's crazy, the stuff that we can do.
Dude, I think I had my first cell phone when I was 17, maybe. I think in maybe 99, something like that.
My first phone was a bag phone when I got my truck, and it was for emergencies only.
Mm.
And I still have the same phone number. It was my first phone.
That's hilarious, because when I text or when I Facebook message you, I was like, man, Trent, I don't know if I have your number. You're like, dude, still the same. I'm like, really? So I still had it in there.
Yep, same number I've always had. I've only had one number.
That's crazy.
I don't have a house phone now, which is also weird to think about. Like, we don't have house phones, but between Lauren and I, we both have phones for work, and then we have our personal cell phones. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit. We have 4 phones between the two of us, but we don't have a house phone.
Right. I finally went back. My parents got rid of their house phone a year or 2 ago, and finally one day I was like, I gotta call it. I gotta call the old number, just to hear it say this is no longer a working number. It was just so weird because for 35 years that 384-5155, man, that's my number, and now to hear it say no longer working, it's just kind of weird.
At least somebody else didn't answer it.
Yeah, right. or my old self answered. I called into like a different dimension or something.
Yeah. Marty McFly.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Well, hey, dude. I know we talked the other night a little bit too. You said you have some stuff in the works that you can't necessarily talk about, but anything coming out soon or anything you've did that you can talk about that you're excited about, coming out?
Most of our like I can't really talk about anything in the future, but in the recent past, a big project was when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opened. Mm-hmm. They opened at Disney World, and there's one in Disneyland as well. But when it came to Disney World, I managed the Good Morning America segment, and we also did a Sarah and Strahan little segment as well. That was a pretty big task. It was a really cool concept. It was for veterans. So we there's a veterans a military hotel near Disney, shaded with green, and Disney reached out to see if there's any families available that want to kind of do like a little special moment, and they went and had to have this little breakfast for them at the Shades of Green, and then they introduced them to like the Good Morning America team, and the next thing they know, they were getting a little tree park open treat to the land. It was 5 families of 5, all representing different segments of the military, and they got to meet Bob Chapek, and he gave them all like this little Disney challenge coin, like a military style challenge coin, and they got to go out in the land, and then we did these little interviews with them and things like that. But right before the land opened, and it was a cool little thing. It was like it doesn't sound like much, but when you're trying to organize that many people, dealing with the executive team, dealing with Good Morning America in New York, Good Morning America in New York, and just logistics. Like, we have a satellite truck coming in. Where's it coming from? We're going to get it from Miami. Where's it going to park? Well, it has to park in this location. Well, what about firework fallout? Will it be in the fall zone? Not there, but we have to move. Like, we have to get everything else out of the way before the fireworks, all that kind of stuff. And like getting a jib into the location, and looking like we can park here, but we have to unload this time, and you have to move your vehicles across property to another location. It was just working out all those logistics with all these people that a lot of them never met before. That was a pretty big feat. And then that thing went live. Whenever anything goes live, it's always like a little bit of a pucker factor. Like, did everything work? Did we cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's? Is everything working? You know what I mean? Especially anything live.
Oh,
it's
sure.
a huge stress ball. Like, it's like, holy smokes, is this, you know, what I mean, it really relies on the hands of the crew, and like, like it could be any, I mean, double redundancies on, you know, what I mean, your lines that you're running and all that kind of stuff. So man, it's a lot of work to make those things happen.
No kidding. I don't think a lot of people, even myself to some extent, I'm sure, not being around it, but I don't think people understand. Like, you know, you see an hour and 20-minute movie come out, and you're like, man, how did that take 6 months to make? Well, just little things like you said, man. They don't take into account you having to get this set up for this shot, having to do, you know, getting the trucks here, the stuff parked here, unloading,
Yeah.
setting up this, setting up that. It's like, man, that takes a lot of daggone work. And if you ever watch, you know, obviously watch the credits of a movie, and it's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people listed who helped out in the movie, it's like, really, it takes that many
Yeah.
to make a film?
Absolutely. Every single one of them. Nobody has a job that's not important.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what they are. Assistants, they're just as important as anything. Like, it takes an army to make things happen. When people ask me what it's like to work in the film industry, I'm like, it's a lot like helping your best friend move. Like, you unload all this stuff, you do all this stuff, you unpack all this stuff, and then it's like, and then you do your thing, and then, like, you have to load it all back up and put it all away. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Like, the actual, and a lot of times, too, like, we build the set, or, like, we light the soundstage. Like, when you pull up to a soundstage, it's just a big old empty warehouse, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to hang all your lights and build all your stuff and set it all up. And then after you're done, you take it all down. And then you have to plan for that. You have to plan for your pre-light days and plan for your build days and plan for, you know what I mean? Like, and all it takes time and money. You have to plan for it. And that's kind of, you know what I mean? I've gotten pretty decent at that kind of stuff. Is just making sure, all right, what's our backup if that doesn't happen? Or what can we do here instead? Or, you know what I mean? It's always the budget. The budget drives everything.
Mm-hmm. Always,
cash is king. Always.
That's what I was going to say. It always comes back to money. I think no matter what field you're in, it always comes back to money. Unfortunately.
Even on The Walking Dead, we cut them a deal. Like, we had to cut a special deal because they were like, we could use your team, or we could go local and split up the. You know what I mean? We could go local for this piece of equipment, then we'd add this other piece of equipment from another local vendor. And this is what it would cost. But we'd like to try you out. You know what I mean? So we ate like our travel time, and we had to do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They got us a hotel and stuff like that, but we had to like eat. We gave them discounts and stuff just to get on the show and see if we could get keep it going.
Sure.
So yeah, and then some of the groups that went with us, like, they moved to Atlanta, so now they're local up there.
Nice. You know, that's becoming kind of a hotbed for not just The Walking Dead, but a lot of TV shows and a lot of movies are produced in Atlanta now.
There's big time stuff going on up there. That's last year, in the first 3 months of last year, I think I was in Atlanta. I think 5 trips. I think I made 5 trips up there last year in just the first 3 months. Wow. And I would never want to live there. There's a lot of great people there. It's a great atmosphere, but I still want to live there. I like it here. I like Florida. We're an hour outside of Orlando. It's a nice little, sleepy little town, much like the town we grew up in. I mean, I live in this little town. It's called Mount Dora. It was highly rated for like a little picturesque small town USA.
Uh-huh.
It's on a big lake and stuff like that, and has like mom and pop shops. Like the downtown proper, you can't have like a chain restaurant or a chain grocery store. It's all mom and pop.
Oh, wow.
And they've kind of locked all that down. It's all very historical, and it's like a northern type town. It's really cool. But I mean, once you get outside of town, once you cross over to the next little town, you got Target and all that kind of stuff, anything you want. But inside the city limits of this little town, they don't really keep a lot of that big stuff out. And they also do like huge like art shows in the streets. They lock down the streets and they do like art festivals or antique festivals, or they have a seafood festival. They have all these festivals throughout the year, which brings a lot of people, big bus people in on like Greyhound buses. People just flock to town and do all this stuff, which is, it's pretty cool that kind of stuff still survives in this era.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No doubt. We traveled.
Yeah,
we traveled to Virginia last year, and there were a lot of little towns like that in Virginia, which I never realized how beautiful of a state Virginia is. But it's to travel through there in spring. Oh my gosh, man! just beautiful. But there's a lot of little historical little towns that if you ever get a chance, man, take a trip through. Anybody listen to this, take a trip through Virginia. Just spend some time in that state and stop at those little towns and see the little mom and pops diners and snack shops and things like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And we spent quite a bit of time growing up. We would go to like those kind of places. My dad was into NASCAR, so in the summertime we would try to go to one or two of the races a year. I mean, it's in the Carolinas and Virginia and things like that. That's where we would go. So we may go to a NASCAR race, but then end up at Virginia Beach or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was what we did. It was just our thing.
Well, back to kind of your stunts and your TV production type stuff. Is there a gig that you missed out on that you wish you would have gotten?
There's always ones that go away. Like we were supposed to do a job. I was supposed to do a shoot with Shaquille O'Neal for, I think it was for J.C. Penney's. It was with Shaquille O'Neal and another player. That one we were going to shoot in a big mansion like in Orlando. That one went away. We were supposed to do this thing with Charlie Sheen before he kind of blew up and grenaded himself for Fiat. We were driving cars like underwater and stuff like that. That was going to be it was down in the Keys. That would have been pretty cool to do, but that one went away. There's always a couple here and there that they come super fast and they go even faster sometimes. But it is what it is.
Sure, man. That's cool. Those are some cool stories. One of these days we get together again, man. I just sit down and pick your brain just to hear, a little bit more about the business. It's always intrigued me ever since you kind of headed down that way, especially when you got into the stunt type stuff. It's like, man, that's just really cool to me. That's really to see the behind the scenes and kind of going back to the old days, the Buster Keatons and guys like that who you see the old silent movie stunt guys and the stuff they did back then is just would blow your mind.
They did it for real, man. They did it for real. They risked their life and limbs for that kind of stuff.
Right, Harold Lloyd. I think Harold Lloyd. My dad's one. I think that might be my dad's favorite. You watch some of his stuff, you're like, what? This is the 19-teens, the 1920s, and they're doing this crazy stuff then.
Yeah, exactly. It's trains and horses and stuff like that, man. It's crazy some stuff those guys would do. Did you ever see our wedding video? It was kind of cheesy, but we did stunts in our wedding.
I was gonna bring that up as well. Anybody listen to this? I think is it on you? It's on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's 10 years old now. It's a little cheesy nowadays, but
no, dude, it's cool. Coolest wedding video I've ever seen. If you get a chance, whoever's listening to this, get on YouTube and check out Trent's wedding videos. Very cool.
I think it's probably under Staten Morale Ultimate Wedding or something like that. We had a lot of fun doing that. It was my family kind of got to see a little bit behind the scenes of how that all works and things like that. So in the planning process, I had my little nephew in the video, and it was cool to zip line into the cocktail hour. It was pretty neat.
Whose idea? Did you come up with it? Your wife come up with it? You guys kind of collaborate on it at first, or who threw out that idea?
I wanted to do like ramp a car, like a leap of faith, and she scaled that back. And she's like, "That sounds stupid." And I'm like, "Well, that'd be awesome. Like, who else anybody's ever done it?"
That's true.
She's like, "Yeah, how about we do? Can we do a zip line or something like that?" I'm like, "Yeah, we can do whatever. We'll make it work." We had a stunt coordinator set it up for us, and I sent a bunch of favors from all my stunt friends and stuff like that, and we shot the beginning of it the week before the wedding. We pulled permits and put the crew together and shot like the whole chase scene and stuff like that, and then we had an editor cut it all together, and then we were supposed to put it up on these screens in the cocktail hour so that like as things happen, like the guests could see it. And then we rented these things from a company, these monitors, and they came and they were like tiny. They were like tiny monitors. I'm like, that's not going to cut it. So it was like the day of the wedding. I'm supposed to be worried about getting married, and I'm worried about these monitors that weren't going to cut it. And I was like, crap, what are we going to do? So we were getting married at the same hotel, the Shade and Green, which is near Disney, and we just went up to our rooms and I unbolted the flat screens. I think they were like, I don't know, 40-inch flat screens or something. Unbolted it from the dresser, put it on the luggage cart, covered it with like duvetine, which is black fabric, and carted them. I think we had 2 or 3 of them. Carted them down to the cocktail hour, and used those. And told that rental company to keep theirs because it wasn't. They weren't going to cut it. They were like computer monitors, and you can't really. Like, what were they thinking?
That's hilarious,
but,
dude.
It worked. It's like one of those things you got to think faster on your feet. You know what I mean? Like,
so
make it work. So they could watch it.
Any did the hotel, did they know that you were gonna do this, or just like, we gotta unbolt these guys?
Yeah,
and take them down?
we had to. Oh no, they didn't. They knew about the stunt and all that kind of stuff. They actually had their own video team come and record it too, for like their behind the scenes, their own thing. But we didn't say nothing to anybody about taking the TVs. We just took them and then we hung the do not disturb tags on the room, and then we just kind of like we got the bellman's cart and we carted them down the hallway and did the thing, and we kept the cart until after the wedding, and like we hid it like behind like somewhere, like we hid it around like where we were like our room we were getting ready or something near like the wedding place, and when it was all said and done, we used that cart and somebody else took them back up. I didn't take them back up. I don't know how they came back up or if they made it back, but I don't know if they didn't charge for them.
That's phenomenal.
But yeah, it is insane. But that's just one of the things you got to kind of think, you know, make it work.
And you did, man. You did, no doubt.
Yeah. It's just, there's always a way for something. And that's actually, I don't think we talked about it enough, but I built a camera car. And the Russian Arm was a very, like, prestigious piece of equipment that it's world renowned. It comes out of Ukraine. And the technology is starting to get faster and better and cheaper. And there's a company in Minneapolis, Minnesota that started making these arms, and I built a arm car out of a BMW SUV and put their arm on it. And now instead of using a Russian arm and trying to make, this high-priced piece of equipment work, I'm trying to use my own thing and making it work.
Nice.
So it's just kind of the thing you got to kind of, you look at things, think fast on your feet, and then just try to make it work. And that was one of the things that I saw a need for it. I mean, that thing rents for tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, I bet.
And mine does. And I was like, well, shoot, if this thing costs this much, if I could get this many jobs, how about I build one, charge less, and, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Pay for it. So I got one of those things sitting in the airplane hangar.
Very cool, man. Growing up in Wellston, did you ever think in your life you would utter the sentence, got one of those, in the airplane hangar,
No, it's not my airplane hangar. I rent it off of a guy that has an airplane, and it just rent space off of him. But yeah, I mean, it's not really something you think about. It's just not. I will never change the way I grew up or the teachers I had or anything like that. But I would say I was probably like a B+ student with an A++ work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, you know what I mean? So no matter where you are, what you're doing, it's just you make out of it what you want to make out of it.
Perfectly said, man. Perfectly said. No excuses, no complaints. Things don't always work out how you want them to, but if you work hard and put all that you have into it, more often than not, you're going to get the results that you're looking for. It might take longer.
Yeah.
If you don't get the results on one thing, it might push you into a different direction you didn't even know about, and you might be successful in that area. So I hate that when people are, oh man, I tried this, I tried that. Well, did you though? Did you put 100% on? Too many people try to skate by and just exist. Like,
I love that in our industry is like, oh yeah, I got a script.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh yeah, I've got an idea about, I like, I got a show idea. Everybody's got a show idea. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, oh yeah, it's about, following this professional NBA team around. You know what I mean? It's kind of like behind the scenes and how they work, and you know, from practice to the court, like how's all that. I'm like, all right, that's fantastic. Who do you know? You know what I mean? In the front office of the team, like I don't know anybody. I'm like, you know any of the players? No, I don't know anybody. I'm like, so how can we make this happen? Oh, well, maybe we can make some phone calls. I'm like, well, yeah, we can do that, but or you can do it. I mean, like everybody. I mean, some of the ideas are solid, but like, you know, I mean, you kind of got to do a little bit of legwork, and sometimes I'm not necessarily the person to do this for somebody else.
Right. It's not. Yeah. Here's my idea. Now you make it. You make it happen. You know.
Exactly, and then they want like $1 million for it. Like, come on, this is not how it works. And nowadays too, like you're not getting that kind of money that you used to get, you know, back in the day with TV production. There's just too much. There's too much reality that's very cheap to make, and there's just too much choice. Like, I mean, with the internet and everything like that, you can make a pretty good living, but it's very rare that you're going to get that lightning in the bottle and multi-million-dollar deal.
Right. I think that's what people are looking for, man. That cheap, quick, okay, I can do this. I can have one good idea, and then I can just live off that for the rest of my life. Well, yeah, not so much.
Not anymore. I mean, you could do okay, but there's like, and too, like a lot of the ideas have been thought of or pitched, or you know, what I mean, a lot of that kind of stuff's already been through the system. And you know, you look at it now, a lot of people are making remakes of old movies. It's like crazy.
Exactly, man. The creative genius. That's what I love about Tarantino. You know what I mean? All Tarantino stuff is so wacky, but it's original. You see all this stuff and oh, let's remake this, let's remake that. Well, why? Like the first one was good. You know, I heard them talking to one of the producers. It might have been Robert Zemeckis or Bob Gale or somebody about Back to the Future, and he's like, I hope they never remake it. Like that doesn't make sense.
Why would they need to?
You know, that doesn't make sense. Like, come up with new original ideas. Stop remaking everything and making it worse. You know, you make these new big budget ones, and it just doesn't work.
Very rarely does it work out. Like some of the remakes are with a ton of money behind them and just doesn't quite hit. Rarely does it hit.
Right. I think the big one that always sticks out in my mind is when they, you know, when I first saw Batman 1989 with Keaton and Nicholson, I was like, you'll never have somebody play the Joker as well as Nicholson. It will not happen. Like, it was just phenomenal. And then Dark Knight comes along, and Heath Ledger just blew that out of the water. I was like, okay, and it's not necessarily a remake. You know, that trilogy's totally different than Tim Burton's, but it's like, dude, that you know, kind of remake or retake.
Just that opening scene alone has got you on the edge of your seat.
Oh,
like, that was
fantastic!
So well done, so well shot, and just perfectly flawless executed, and you just can't beat it.
Right, even
but
that.
Then again, like the 1989 of the Batman, that was a fantastic show.
Right. And I guess it's easier with superhero movies and things like that because they're always gonna. Same with horror movies, they're always gonna just continue and continue. But just make a separate one. Don't remake an old one. You know, I don't know. Again, to me, it's just ideas, man. Don't be lazy. Don't. You know, that's one thing that gets me with The Walking Dead nowadays. You know, circling back to that is the writing seems so lazy sometimes. Just the dialogue. It's like, well, we don't know what to say here, so let's just. I know. My cousin says, you know, a lot about the Kirkman, the novels and the comics, how Kirkman's just, he's like, his writing is like an 8-year-old. And I think a lot of that comes off onto the screen as well, even though he's not the guy writing they're taking a lot from the comic itself. But it's kind of like Rob Zombie movies. It's like, dude, stop being lazy. Okay, I can't think of what to say here, so I'll just say something vulgar and throw a couple F-bombs in there. It's like, I don't know. Do you watch the show Ozark on Netflix?
No, I haven't seen it.
Ozark, first 2 seasons were pretty good. Season 3 was phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. But the same thing. There's characters where it's just lazy writing. It's F this, F that, F this, F that. It's like, dude, do you just not know what to have this character say? You know what I mean? To me, that all circles back around to just no ideas anymore. There's nothing new. You're not coming out with any new material. Just don't be lazy. Don't be a lazy writer. Don't be a lazy director.
Yeah. Well, Mandalorian kind kind of falls into that where it's just very well executed, well done, and that thing shot to like #1 immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it?
I have not.
Star Wars Mandalorian. I haven't either. I'm not really too much into Star Wars. I mean, I do a ton of Star Wars projects, which is crazy. But that show, I mean, I saw like maybe one episode. You could tell like that is well put together, well done, perfectly executed. But then the next thing that people are flocking to now is the Tiger King. Have you seen that?
I actually watched about 25 minutes of the first episode just because everybody was talking about it. And my dad even watched it. I was like, well, let me see what this is about. And what in the world, dude? Like, these are real human beings?
Real people, man. Real people. It's insane. But, you know, I mean, you never know what people are gonna flock to. I mean, that's definitely not well. I mean, actually, the way it is, they did a nice job on how they presented it, because I watched the first episode and I was like, there's no way they're going to get, whatever, 6 or 8 episodes out of this thing. Like, I feel like I know everything I need to know about the Tiger King. Moving on next, and then the next episode comes on, and it's like a whole nother level of, like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And then the next episode comes, and there's a whole nother layer on there. It's like, wow. They did a nice job putting this together, even though these people are like totally insane. But they did a nice job putting it together.
I think that show has been a product of good timing. You know, with this whole
excellent timing,
right? With this whole pandemic,
there's nothing else better to do.
Exactly. I'll have to.
I mean, that's just like with a lot of people, like in the news, and like something. I think it was like California Pacific Light or whatever. They were the ones who were responsible for like the campfire in New York and all that kind of stuff. Like their court case was during this pandemic, and I don't know how that all went down. I don't know if how many millions they got sued for or whatever they went down for, or if anybody's going to jail, but. That's old news now. Like, that's not in the headlines, where if it was a regular news day, you and I and everybody else in the world would know what was going on with that. Whether the California Power and Light or whatever their utility service was that sparked the fires. Like, that's going on. That was a couple weeks ago. Like, just things like that. Like, all the stuff that's going on. And all the politicians who, you know what I mean, like, doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. I mean, people are getting away with everything right now.
That's true. All that media coverage is just going to, to the pandemic and all that stuff, man. So, crazy.
Which we just got to get out of it. I mean, we got to figure out what the next thing is and get past everything and either come up with a cure or wait till it all passes. And how does that work? Like, what keeps it from coming back?
I don't know, man. Somebody said the other day, they thought, man, could this thing be seasonal? It's like, well, if we get some vaccine going, I know there's still a lot of anti-vaccine type people out there that it's like, dude, that's fine. You can be that way, and maybe it will have some side effects, but if it can save hundreds of millions of people's lives, man, I'm all for it. You got a lot of the conspiracy theorists. Even I posted something on my buddy's, or actually I sent him a text today. It was a video where these people are going around now and going into hospitals where they're claiming that, the wait lines to get tested for this COVID are huge and things are just crazy, and they're walking to these hospitals and these hospitals are completely empty. It's like, well, wait a minute, you guys are telling us one thing in the media, but then on the other hand, this is what's happening. I think there's a balance. I think there is a lot that's media driven and blown out of proportion, but this isn't fake, man. There's a lot of people dying. There's a lot of people dying from this. Is it being,
Absolutely.
Is it being blown out of proportion? Probably a little bit by the media, but still, when thousands of lives have been lost.
And it's also where in the country are you too? Like, Florida, New York, California, even Hawaii. Those are pretty big places where people travel and visit, and you got a lot of movement coming in and out of there.
Absolutely.
Bismarck, North Dakota, maybe not so much, or middle of nowhere, Nebraska, maybe not so much. It's just a little bit different, like where in the country you are and what's going on in your area and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Side note about Nebraska, worst state I've ever driven through. If you ever get a chance to drive through there, don't do it. Just awful.
Don't do it, huh? Yeah, was it one the comedians, he was like, what do you, he gets pulled over and by a cop, and I think he's in Nebraska. He's like, what are you trying to do? He's like, I'm trying to get out of here.
Yeah, man, just awful. Oh my gosh, the smells. Whew.
Yeah.
I didn't have a good experience. I've driven through there once, and that was enough for me. But yeah, man. Hopefully soon this kind of gets under control. You know, I'm a diehard baseball fan, and obviously baseball sports is very minuscule compared to, you know, people losing their lives. But I'm missing it, man.
Yeah.
I'm missing the game. I'm missing sports in general. It's weird. It's just a weird thing where we don't know. I think that's the thing, is the uncertainty. It's like when is this going to happen? Okay, we're quarantined for 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, what's going to happen? Are we quarantined for another 2 weeks? Like, again, I've been taking advantage of the rule here. Hey, I'm going to the beach. You know, on my off days, we're allowed to swim, we're allowed to walk, we're allowed to exercise. Fortunately, there's a lot of hiking trails here. There's you know, walkways in front of the hotels, which it's eerie walking in front of the hotels and seeing no one. Being in the ocean and seeing no one for as far as you can see. It's like, man, it's like I got this entire island by myself. Oh, it's crazy.
It is. But also, too, like, I mean, I know that you got to keep everybody safe and everybody needs to stay indoors, but I mean, you got to think about it, too. Like, there are networks dedicated to air sports, and there's so much money involved and people's livelihood and jobs and all that kind of stuff that's to sports, and they just turn sports off. Like, there's no, like, slow move, start phasing things out. It was like one day there's sports, and the next day there's not much going on.
Right.
It's insane. Like, people are scrambling and not, like, you can do virtual racing or something like that, and just like, and they're putting that stuff on prime time because that block of time has already been paid for like a race or something. And I'm not really into that kind of stuff. Like, I don't really watch NASCAR or anything like that, but I know that's a huge business. And every Sunday on Fox or NBC, there's a huge block of time that's dedicated to that. Well, now that's not happening. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to put a lot of just that one portion of things is going to put strain on everything. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I don't feel sorry for the athletes who are making $300-400 million, but there's athletes out there, you know, if it's baseball, you might be having a rookie or some journeyman who might have finally gotten a chance this year, has never been up from the minor leagues, and this was his year, and he might lose that window. Maybe next year somebody else comes along and pushes him back out, and he goes back to the minors and ends up going back and working for a factory in his hometown or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really costing a lot of. Go ahead.
High school seniors as well. High school seniors and college seniors.
I can't. I can't imagine that. Jake, when I was talking to Jake the other day, he said that same thing. He said, "Man, could you imagine if this happened to us when we were seniors?"
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do you do? Do you grant kids another year of eligibility for sports? But then what about the kids coming up? Again, that's the thing. They were talking about college sports this year. It's like, do you grant these seniors another year of eligibility? Well, that's cool, but what about the kids coming in? What about the kids coming up who have waited patiently for their chance to start or to play more? They're kind of getting screwed. So it's just a big snowball effect.
And they pushed the Olympics. I mean, they pushed the Olympics to, looks like it's probably going to be next year. A lot of people are going to age out. Like, you can only be at that level for so long. And that's like their whole life. They start training for that stuff when they're children. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And now, you know, they may not be able to make it to next year. So there's a lot of trickle down. I mean, I see the benefits, absolutely. I'm not saying do good, live life, or, you know, I mean, start sports back up or anything like that. There's definitely benefits in it, especially with people who are older or immune deficient and things like that. I get it. I totally get it. But there's also a lot of back-end stuff happening, too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I know whenever this first came about and the NBA got shut down, I think it was Mark Cuban was the first owner that came out and said, listen, I have thousands of employees who work for me with the Mavs. He's like, I'm going to pay them. Like, we'll find out some way, however we need to do it. We're going to make sure these people get paid, which is the right thing to do, man. You know, he's a billionaire. It's like you can afford to pay these people for 3-4 months that you're missing out on. So that's a good thing. And you see other athletes here and there that are donating certain money, but it's like, dude, if you're making $300-400 million bucks in baseball, you got Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, guys like that who are making so much money. It's like, okay, time to let's give back a little bit. Let's see what we can do. And I'm sure a lot of them are. A lot of the stuff you don't hear about because they,
absolutely.
as
They don't want that to get out.
That's
know what I mean?
exactly.
But also potentially they could potentially write that off too. You know what I mean? Tax write off potentially.
Yep, a lot of people.
Somehow.
A lot of people do stuff through their quote foundations, and then they kind of that's where it's kind of written off at and things like that. So it doesn't matter to me. However you got to do it, just help people out, man. If you got that kind of money.
Yeah, because there's people that you know what I mean. They depend on that paycheck. You know what I mean? It's they may have a family at home or something like that, and they gotta have that next paycheck to survive, to buy groceries or something. You know what I mean?
For sure. Crazy time for sure, man. But Trent, listen, dude, been an hour and a half, man. It's been fun. I appreciate you.
Wow, it's been.
I know,
been
right?
Long. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, has it?
It always
Hey,
happens.
man, let's get together sometime. If you're ever back in the continental U.S., let me know, man. We'll have to hang out.
Well, my contract over here was supposed to go till July, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be cut short here pretty soon, and that's totally understandable. I've talked to my bosses here a couple times, and it's like, hey, you guys got to do what you got to do also. That's the thing about being a contractor. We make better money, but we also have that risk of, hey, if we don't need you, we can cut you. And with how things are going now, man, whatever they got to do, you got to do what's best for you. And luckily I'm in a place where, I have some money saved up and I've done pretty well. Yeah. So I always have the fallback of coming back to Ohio and hanging out with my folks. And, they don't charge me rent. Obviously, I stay there with them and things like that. But my plan is for for later in the year, if I do get to stay till July, I'm planning on doing some stuff when I get home. Maybe taking a few trips. So if I make it down south, dude, for sure I'll hook up with you and just have some dinner and talk about old times, man. And like I said, it's been fun. I actually had a request. I was gonna have you on here anyway, but I had a request from Kyle Stewart. He's like, man, you got to have Trent on the show. So thanks.
Stewart's, holy cow, these guys are. I grew up with them, and they helped mold me. You know what I mean? They made me. Gave me my grit. I think they were also my bodyguards growing up too. Like anybody messed with me, you had to go to them.
Right.
They took care of me. But man, a huge part of my life growing up was Kyle and Troy.
Super guys. I didn't know Troy as well. I knew Kyle a lot better because we played basketball together and things like that. But super nice guys. I always enjoy talking to them when I'm back home. And I actually got together when I was back home this last time. I played in the alumni softball tournament, and Troy actually played. Yeah. Troy played with us, so he came down and took some batting practice with us before the tournament. And then I got to talk to Kyle during the tournament. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that he's like, man, you got to have Trent on there. So Kyle, he listens to all the shows. So Kyle, I thank you for listening, and hopefully you enjoyed this.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, right. Hopefully he'll enjoy it. But yeah, man, again, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you doing this. Let's not make it 7 years before we see each other again or talk. But anything fun comes up, man, any fun stories, text me and let me know about it. Because the movie business, anything involving that is super cool to me. I go to a lot of these conventions where I meet a lot of actors and things like that. So just the behind the scenes stuff really, really is cool to me. So I really enjoy listening to that kind of thing.
Cool, man. Yeah, we'll have to chat sometime.
All right, Trent, well, say hello to your parents for me, buddy, and take care. I'll talk to you here pretty soon, all right?
You do the same. Thanks again.
All right, bud. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, that was my interview with Trent Staten. Such an interesting dude. Trent's got to do and see a lot since his time at Wellston, and it was cool catching up with him. Really good guy. Really appreciate him coming on the show. Again, guys, thanks for all your support. Going to be back on the show here pretty soon. Next guest will be a pretty special episode. We have Memorial Day coming up here in a few weeks, and I'm gonna have two veterans on the show. Friends of mine. One I've known since I was a kid, and then his wife, who I got to meet here a few years ago, and we've got to be pretty good buddies. So I'm gonna have Candace and Jamie Pierce on the show. Jamie, grew up in Wellston, and we went to school together. He was a year or so behind me, but again, great people. You're gonna hear their stories. They're gonna talk about some pretty interesting things that they've seen and they've done, and some pretty cool hardware that they got. Risking their lives for us. So it's gonna be a good show. I look forward to you guys hearing it. And until next time, thanks for listening to Brent Ewing's Hey Buddy podcast.